All right, this is my arcade 1-up 18001 running off of a Piecade. As you can see, I've got the lit buttons with the Street Fighter layout, and I have some like coin buttons on the front. It's got an external volume knob here. The art on it is very nice. I'm going for a space theme here in my basement. With the riser, it's just as tall as a standard cab here. And if you get, look at the actual Asteroids 1-ups, you'll see there's 4 different logos that are sitting here on the front. I ordered this nice graphic here to cover that up. And we've got the piece of nice clear plexiglass over the top here, and then the lit buttons. So this whole thing here is maybe, I don't know, 5 feet tall, about 4 feet without the riser. But we've liked and enjoyed this so much that we ended up getting a full-size computer-based one. But if you're worried about size, if you're looking at the height on this, the control deck is pretty much the exact same height. Now when I say this thing has 18,000 games, I mean it has 18,065 games. So the controls on this aren't too crazy. I can go in here and start at the very top if I want to. So as you can see, I've got games and games and games and games on all sorts of systems. Like on here, you know, we've got the 1942 version on the Amistad PC, the arcade, the Commodore 64, the Game Boy Color, the MSX, the NES, the Game Boy Spectrum, and then there's an NES hack on it. In addition to, you know, if you don't want to go scroll through all these games, you can go back to the main menu by pushing this button, and you can, there's a favorites group that you can load things onto. And just to give you an idea of the systems on here, there are, let's see, we got the Amiga 32, 32-bit Amiga CD, CPC. There's 1,500 regular arcade games here. There's arcade hacks. We've got Atari here. I'll just scroll through these real quick. Some of these do not work, but the vast majority of them do. I would say out of the 18,000 on here, maybe 14,000 of them work. The ones that don't work are the ones for like the Dreamcast and the more advanced systems. And then there's some that are keyboard based that don't work on here. But if you want to play like Super Nintendo, NES, most of the Nintendo 64 games, they work on here just fine. So back here under the favorites, if I go in here, I've got the games that I play most on here. You know, if you want Street Fighter 2, it plays just fine. My kids really like The Simpsons. So if I want to play The Simpsons, here's the arcade version. Hit that button there. Arcade's going to load. So when the system boots, it's actually emulating an actual arcade machine on here. So it takes just a second. So this is like if you were literally turning on an arcade system, it would do this before it started to show anything. Okay, so here we have The Simpsons. If I don't want to listen to it, I've got my external volume control here. I can add a coin credit by pushing this button. Press start. And I have the arcade version of The Simpsons right here. All right. Start, do the introduction. This is small enough to fit into an automobile, just a car, and it probably weighs 40 or 50 pounds, and the riser comes off. So as you can see, here we go, good old arcade Simpsons. No issue. Now if I want to leave this, I'm going to hold down this button and push the red one, and I'll go back to the menu. Now if I just leave it alone, you know, there's previews on most of this stuff. And once again, this is my little favorites menu. There's previews on most of this stuff. If you leave it alone, it'll start going through and doing just a regular screensaver, which is pretty cool. Or if you load these up, it'll just do the attract mode for the arcade. So, you know, you want a fighting game here, turn it on, it'll load. Give it a minute. It's going to do the whole thing where it's booting up the actual system. All right, European version, blah, blah, blah. All right. So if I leave it alone, it'll just go into the attract mode of an actual real arcade game. X-Men Children of the Atom, an excellent fighting game. Or I can give myself a credit, pick out, play whatever. The system on this, the menu system, if you got little kids, my 8-year-old can work it just fine. My 6-year-old struggles with it. But it's something that little kids can get used to and learn. So let's say you don't want to scroll through 18,000 at a time. So there's a gazillion games. You can fast scroll by pushing this button. You can select a random one by pushing this button here. So let's say that you are a big fan of, here, what's a good one? Let's say you really like Timber, okay? So you want to make this show up on your saved favorites list so you don't have to scroll and find it every time. Hold this button down for a minute. It'll add it to your favorites. Push this menu to get back to the next one. Go to favorites. And then you've got Timber on here. You can play Timber whenever you want to, as much as you want at home. But that's a basic synopsis of how this works. My kids love this. I use it. I can't tell you how many random old games like Tapper I've decided I like and I play on here. It will not play the newer 3D-ish games from the mid to late 90s, like NFL Blitz and the Gauntlet Legends stuff isn't on here and wouldn't work. But if you want any classic arcade games or you want to share this with your kids, you can. I would generally come down and put a new game on here every couple of days or every week and just let my kids discover, hey, wow, you know, here's X-Men, or, you know, here's The Simpsons, or here's Cadillac and Dinosaurs. But that's the quick version of this. Let me take you around back. I leave this plugged in and turned on all the time. There's a little power switch here on the back to turn it off and on if the thing crashes. If you just leave it on all the time, maybe once every other week it'll crash and you'll have to reset it. But generally it's been pretty solid, and it's pretty decent looking for what it is, and it is a ton of fun for what it is. But that's about it.